The following is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion advised.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, you ain't ever seeing her again. Cause this is not that.
Nigga, no.
Thor Love and Blunder. I'm sorry. Thor Love and Thunder. That was a typo. But you're talking, not typing. You shut your mouth. Thor Love and Thunder is the 13th installment within Phase 4's MCU, or MCU's Phase 4. And it premiered this past Friday on July 8th. And quite frankly, it's gotten a lot of mixed reviews. And I'm talking mixed.
She's biracial.
I don't think that this movie is being received well. Quite frankly, when I bought my tickets, I was only going to see it out of obligation, but I knew it was going to probably be ass. And that's probably exactly what a lot of people think. Not a lot. It's split 50-50. While I keep my overall expectations grounded, yeah, that's pretty accurate. While I keep my expectations grounded, I would say a lot of people keep their expectations dangerously low, and that's very indicative of a bunch of other issues within the MCU. Thor franchise, but MCU in a general sense, because MCU, you are getting your lashings. And I also just want to throw in the fact that Joss Whedon has done irreparable damage to comic book media and cinema alike.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
Damn. To me, I'd say there's a handful of projects, maybe about 4 or 5 projects that are carrying the MCU. And I'd say that these projects are Shang-Chi, Loki, WandaVision, and No Way Home. Obviously, this is just my opinion, but this list is also, I just want you to keep this in mind, this list that I have is indicative of the movies that were just, the projects that were generally well received by a really large audience and that performed just really well in a general sense. You can have your feelings about fan service, about cameos, about the multiverse, and it being talked about too much, which I don't really agree with. You can have your opinions on that, but I definitely think that these movies have just done really well. These movies have done really, really well. It should also be mentioned that these projects appear in everybody's, or a lot of people, the majority of people's, top 5 and definitely top 10, maybe even top 3. Whether it be 1, 2, or all of them, they are going to land in somebody's top 10.
Is that not enough? Yeah.
No.
Which is why they're in the category of carrying the MCU. So argue with the CGI wall. I kind of want to just touch on some of the important takeaways that I have for the 4th installment of the Thor franchise. Quite frankly, I don't think they should have given him a 4th movie, but I also understand that Chris Hemsworth loves playing Thor, so why the hell not?
Yes!
I feel like Thor has always been a character, not always, I would say the majority of his time on screen, Thor has been a husk of a potentially great character, an on-screen great comic book character. I just don't think that he's been properly utilized throughout his time in the MCU. And again, my opinion is my opinion. This is all subjective. Feel free to disagree. I think Thor 1 was great personally. You know, watching them as a kid, I don't think it kept my attention, but as an adult, just kind of rewatching them for the sake of rewatching them, Thor the Dark World has its issues. I don't think that it's bad, and I could probably just be coming from an area of, I just like the tone and pace of these movies. But that's not the case for everybody, and I also understand that people's attention spans are just not what they used to be.
Is your idiot brain getting fucked by stupid?
All that is to say, Thor 4's dialogue was awful. Christian Bale had probably the best dialogue, and the bar is also just really low, but I'd say the dialogue for him was probably really good, and him and Natalie Portman, but more so him, was the pieces, the gears that kind of kept it together, the oil that kept the engine running. So Thor 4 is being received so weirdly, so oddly, that revisionists are coming out of the woodwork on social media. Again, like I said, personally, I liked Thor 1. I did think it was a little slow, but I liked it for what it was, especially for it coming out almost, 15 years ago.
You just made that up.
And there's just been this weird battle of character progression. There's no consistency there. I feel like, especially when in the hands of Taika. I don't feel like there's really anything worth watching for me. There's no emotional attachment that I can give this character. And that, again, that's just me. Some people like lowbrow comedy. I just feel like Taika's brand of comedy within the MCU especially is very lowbrow, very pubescent, very, much aimed at a specific demographic. Can't really put my finger on it. It's just not my brand of comedy. It's kind of thoughtless, I should say.
Now, so the cocaine's happening. When does that crack come into play for you?
I think one of my biggest issues with Thor 4 is the fact that I didn't see the point of kind of making this a rom-com. And I feel like a lot of Thor movies were comedies, but dramatic comedies. This was a very unserious romantic comedy. The Goats, that is an example to me of the lowbrow humor that I'm talking about. It's just like, this is probably funny in a vacuum that's turned on once or twice, and then it's done. Because it's so unserious, there was so much opportunity for, Mighty Thor, Jane Foster's character, to really be put at a cornerstone in terms of the greater MCU. I don't know why she was killed off early. I don't know who approved that, and I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that she will return. Another big issue that a lot of people have with this movie is that a lot of things that people feel important or was important happened off screen. A lot of the character development or even character regression happened off screen. So while it might be explained or touched on in the movie, we would rather see that.
You, honestly, and go to hell.
You know what I mean? I would have loved to see how, Jane became worthy of Thor's Mjolnir. I'd love to see the conversations that center around her cancer and how she's battling and overcoming that. I would love to see these things. I would love to see a lot of the things that were just missed opportunities, and that were supplemented with really shitty jokes that just didn't land.
Okay, let's move on.
I will say Thor has a really nice ass. One that I would love to have on my face.
Put your mouth right over that hole. Put your mouth there and speak it in there. Let it all go.
Understanding Thor as a plot piece and nothing else, I guess allows you to kind of just sit with the fact that, yeah, you can go in a movie and just shut your brain off. But that's not how I want to consume media. And I'm not saying I'm going to be overtly critical, but I want to at least felt like, okay, this was sort of provoking in an emotional or, a mental sense. I definitely feel like Thor is a character that does well based on, his supporting characters who are written well. I think he is really a supporting character within his own franchise. And that is saying a lot. I think a lot of people are starting to see Tom Hiddleston's / Loki's significance to the franchise. I think their dichotomy, is a really, really well-written one, especially within the phase 1 through 2. I would say phase 1 and 2. Those time periods where Loki sat and reigned supreme. It also highlighted something else that I feel like the MCU is missing, which is villains that are actual villainous and, villains that stay consistent. Menace Loki within the first 2 phases of the MCU. Yeah, I definitely feel like that is where I'd like to see a lot of MCU villains. Seeing Willem Dafoe tear Peter Parker apart consistently, like going bat for bat, that was just so refreshing to me. That man did not stop. There was no chill.
That's some neat trick. That sense of yours. Norman? Norman's on sabbatical, honey.
Again, Thor 4 has the most mixed reviews, or it's being received so poorly, to the fact that people are going back and saying that Thor 2 was good. That is a very bold thing to say, seeing as though a lot of people don't like that movie. The CWification of the MCU, I think, is going to lead to its downfall. Or while I think that we're approaching that door, or maybe we're in the door, I definitely think there's still time to kind of walk back, to backtrack, and to course correct a lot of things within the next set of, movies, or just in phase 5 and 6 entirely. The focus on family friendly, and box office domination is really going to probably hurt the MCU in terms of it being a piece or pieces of work that age well within the next 10 to 15 years, the same way that a lot, not all, but a lot of phase 1 does. I'm now going to get into some of the tweets that I am seeing when it comes to Thor. According to Film Updates, Thor Love and Thunder debuts with a $302 million global box office opening, the third highest weekend globally for any Hollywood movie during the pandemic, and the second best of 22, behind Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Here's one of the more piss poor takes. Quick review of Thor Love and Thunder. Thor Love and Thunder is a comedy. Don't go in expecting groundbreaking works of cinema. That is a terrible way to view movies, if you ask me. No one asked me, but I'm still saying it. Ugh. That acid reflux is kicking my ass. This tweet from by Jocelyn says, crazy how the best scene in the first Thor movie doesn't even have Thor. Tom Hiddleston and Anthony Hopkins shine in that scene. It's probably the best performance in the Thor saga. There was drama, the stakes were higher, you know, the emotions were raw. So, yeah. Here's another tweet by Cuban Crusher, someone that I follow on TikTok, but not on Twitter. I hate how Thor Love and Thunder just brushed over Thor's weight loss and mental health journey from Endgame to now. All for he doesn't skip leg day joke. This tweet from 3N4S says, forgot to mention, but they never explained how Thor's right eye magically went from orange to blue all of a sudden. Now, while I think that is a very small detail, if you were going to handle anything like off screen, this is one of those details, and it wasn't even touched on in the movie. It's kind of just one of those things that you have to suck up and just move on with. I'm not going to sit here and read tweets. I think you can all just do that for yourself. It's not story time, and I'm not your babysitter. So, with that said, I would give Thor a 4 out of 10.
That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
And I'm not really a big enthusiast when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, but that score, it being close to Thor, you know, The Dark World, personally, I think it's justified. It might even be lower, but I'm just gonna blame it on inflation. Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a comment ranting about how much you disagree and how much you want to kill me. And, you know, my family. Who knows? Either way, have a somewhat better day than what you're having, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.